Hello, and welcome to the Goblin's Grotto. This is a mini paint diary for minis 1 through 25. Well, what better place to start than with the very first mini I ever painted. This here is the Owlbear from Nolzur's Marvelous Pigments Monster Paint Set. Although he is painted mostly with craft paints I got from the local superstore for about 50 cents each. For a first mini, this was a really good job, I think. I'm particularly proud of some of the colors here. Since most of the tutorials are using paints I didn't even have, I decided to just grab some craft paints from the store in like a big pack, and they worked out really well. I was able to do things like make this base look like a kind of muddy riverbed that this thing would be stomping through. And I got some pretty cheap brushes and was able to put details like that little white brow and get these eyes dotted with pupils. I didn't think I would ever be able to do that, but the craft paint really worked out here. I used it in the mouth there and it created that weird little bubble that actually worked out really well. I think this mini really goes to show that paint is paint, and that if you really need some guidance, get it, but what matters most is that you give yourself more confidence than you think you have. If you do, you might just make something that you'll be proud of forever. But let's not stop there. I certainly didn't. I started painting this next mini the moment I was done with the first. It's a Minotaur from a set put up by Tenologue Fantasy Battles. These cheap minis have some excellent sculpts, and they're a bit on the large size, so they're great for practicing those painting skills on. Also, you may notice a theme here as I make more of these videos. For whatever reason, I just love painting Minotaurs. I don't know what the deal is, but I have about 10-ish in my collection, including a skeletal one. With this one, I use a bit more of those premium paints, like the Balthasar gold on the pommel of a sword, and some lich skin as feet, and yeah, on that little sash there, I use some of the green from that Nolzur's paint set. Most of this guy is still craft paint. As you can see there, I used a little fine brush and managed to squeeze a little detail into that eye, dropping a pupil in there. It's pretty difficult, but proud of it. And you can see the washer doing work on that skull there. This guy's not as heavily washed as some minis, but you know what? Not every mini needs a wash. Heck, some of my best painted minis are unwashed. This one's not one of those, but it is the first of the centaurs that I got alongside the Minotaurs as a Christmas present. As you can see, some of the paint is chipping on the spear. The primer I used was just a Citadel black primer. Just didn't stick super well as plastic, and I didn't use a sealer. See, I'm pointing out the green jewel and the green glowing eyes. I wanted to give some kind of possessed magic raider from the forest look with this. That guy chewed it well. I'm recording this audio in post, by the way, so if I seem a little surprised by what I'm doing, it's not because my hands have a mind of their own. It's just because I'm reacting to my own weird mannerisms and hand modeling. I had decided to go with a completely different aesthetic on this guy. I thought the sculpt fit well with the evil raider from the coast, so I gave him the red eyes and the pale orc skin and the dark aesthetic. It's a bit muddy, but it is literally only the third mini I ever painted, and I'm still proud of it. I'm proud of the purple I managed there because I didn't own purple paint. I had to mix some to get that. He's a weird one, this guy, but I think I achieved the desired look. Now, you have to be really careful with this guy because it's pretty sharp. Aside from the skin, which it did overwash a bit, this thing is entirely craft paints. It's folk art, gold, and iron. The rest is all apple barrel. Using these craft paints really, for me, destroyed that premium paint bar for entry that turns out wasn't even there to begin with. Anyway, back to Minotaurs. This guy gave me some ranger / executioner vibes, so I gave him the touches of green and red there, but I also gave him that drips of blood on his axe there. I also decided to go with the dark fur, black horns and hooves, and the beady red eye look for him. But, you know, it's not necessarily an evil-looking Minotaur. He actually kind of resembles a character for a book that I've been in the process of writing for a few years now. And that character isn't necessarily a bad guy, so maybe this guy isn't either. Maybe he's just very zealous about, killing monsters or people. All I'm saying is I wouldn't want to be on this dude's bad side. Now this next one, I'm gonna be honest, I think it looks kind of bad. The colors look great, I'll say that. I do think it did a good job on the skin, but the face, I couldn't pick out the eyes on this sculpt. On the one side it did terrible, and this side, a little better. The gold looks pretty yellow in this light. I don't know why this camera just picks gold up as yellow, but I think this was a good experiment, but not great. The failure for me kind of carries on to this one. You see his chipping there, and this one also looks a bit muddy, but the colors aren't terrible. I try to do some finer details, like the dots there, and there's this pattern on the shield, and one of the pauldrons, there's sort of a little design that I etched and highlighted a bit, but in this lighting, the gold filigree looks more like yellow paint, unfortunately. It's alright. Now this guy, alright, we're back on the Minotaur train. It's looking good. I kind of see this guy as like a berserker, maybe gladiator in the ring type of a dude. Did the wash there on the skull like I did on the buffalo looking guy a while back. Pick off a little bit of fuzz there. I did the blood technique again. Now I think I actually did it on this mini first, then I went back to the executioner and added it there. If you want to do this yourself, it's just a bit of army painter glistening blood effect, but presumably any red paint and some gloss would do the trick. You get a little bottle of that stuff with that paint set though, so. Moving on. Now the final Minotaur of this set is this Berserker guy who I, really bloodied up. He's got this double axe and that little blade in the back. I even put a little bit of blood on the tip of the horn, which I'm gonna get a better shot of in a bit. But this one, I decided to go with the darker tones, and if you look at all of these side by side, definitely there's a theme of browns, but I kind of like to vary all of these minis from each other, at least in some way, whether it's the clothing or the skin tones. So that's a better shot of the pointed horn. Really proud of the mouth there, the color of the tongue and the teeth. Didn't wash this guy a lot, but washing the teeth really brought him out. Now that the set's complete, I'll round it off with some shots of them all together as a group. Yeah, some of them aren't so great, but I'm still proud of these. Definitely recommend these sculpts to anyone just getting out. You can find these on Amazon and other online retailers pretty cheap, or consistently. They're Russian or Ukrainian, I'm not really sure, but I'll put a link in the description below. You can pick these up for about $7 to $10, give or take. After it went well with those miniatures, I grabbed some of the pieces out of the Magic the Gathering Arena of the Planeswalker board game, primed them up, and started painting. These are some of the undead that came from those sets. of the set, I'm particularly pleased with these Undead Reavers, or Blighted Reavers, I think is what they're actually called. They're like orcs or ogres. They pair well with these skeletal zombie axemen. Restless Dead, I think they're called. But the ogres just have pretty large. They have a pretty good model. This one in particular has a couple of battle scars, which I was able to highlight with some oozing blood. I am showing you these in the order that I actually painted them in. But I did paint all of them on the same day. This one in particular, I'm a big fan of. I decided to make them purple because there's a lot of purple things in Magic the Gathering. And even though it's kind of weird, I like it. It works. The bronze really highlights that purple too. Alright, this is the one with a lot of battle scars. I don't know if the blood would still be that red, but you know what? If it's on the table, it needs to pop. So, but yeah, overall, these sculpts aren't the most impressive thing, but you know, if you're ever picking up that board game, I would suggest going ahead and painting these guys up. In this next group of minis, it's where I learned that it's very difficult to paint white. As you can see on some of these rocks veterans, it's very chalky, looks kind of bad, but hey, you know, I did manage to achieve some details on these models, like the little pupils of the eyes, a couple of little baubles and other little tiny metal bits, the color of certain bits of apparel, and the skin tones on 3 very roughly similar sculpted rhino people. Barring that shield that you saw me giving a thumbs down to, I think this one turned out the best of the line. Not a lot of rhino people minis out there, so even though these definitely aren't perfectly painted, I'm still glad I have them. This next group is equally okay group of minis. These are some pummel root elementals. I tried to paint them up like they were different, like tree types. I think I achieved it look pretty well. All craft paint with these. There's really nothing too special about them, but I do think the sculpts are nice. A more talented painter could probably make these look even cooler. And finally, the last 2 minis for this set of 25 are these 2 werewolves. Pretty simple, basically just brown paint with very light highlights. The only thing really special about them, beyond that, is the teeth and the eye colors, with yellow and red. These are pretty decent sculpts. But that wraps it up for this first 25 minis in order. So I will leave you with a panning group shot of all of them, and maybe if you stick around to the end of the video, a little something extra. Thanks for watching.